Have you ever had one of those moments where a single comment, a sudden change of plans, or even just a frustrating email completely derails your entire mood? You feel that rush of heat, your thoughts start racing, and before you know it, you've reacted in a way you later regret. We've all been there, trapped in that cycle of emotional triggers and reactive behavior. But what if you could intercept that reaction? What if, in that critical moment between stimulus and response, you had a set of mental tools to transform that raw emotion into something far more powerful: strategic calm? This isn't about suppressing what you feel. It's about understanding it, channeling it, and ultimately rewiring your response from the inside out. This idea is at the very heart of Stoic philosophy. The ancient Stoics understood that while we can't always control what happens to us, we absolutely can control how we interpret and respond to those events. As Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Our true power lies in our judgments, the way we choose to see and frame our experiences. That shift in perspective is everything. It turns moments of potential conflict into opportunities for clarity. It turns emotional turbulence into a calm, deliberate strategy. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. In this video, we're exploring 20 thought filters, mental lenses grounded in Stoic wisdom that you can apply in real time to rewire those emotional triggers. Each filter is designed to help you pause, reframe, and choose a response that serves you rather than one that controls you. We'll start by looking at the ancient principles behind these ideas, then move into the practical filters themselves, and finally, we'll talk about how to integrate them into your daily life. This isn't just theory. This is about building a toolkit for resilience, clarity, and calm, no matter what life throws your way. So if you're ready to transform reactivity into responsiveness, let's begin. Think about the last time you felt genuinely stressed or anxious. What was the source of that feeling? Chances are, it was tied to something you had little to no power over. Maybe it was a negative comment from a coworker, a sudden change in a project deadline, or even the weather ruining your weekend plans. This is where our first and perhaps most vital filter comes into play: the dichotomy of control. This foundational Stoic concept, most famously taught by the philosopher Epictetus, provides the ultimate lens for sorting through the chaos of our experiences. Epictetus put it with stunning clarity: some things are within our power while others are not. Within our power are opinion, motivation, desire, aversion, and, in a word, whatever is of our own doing. Not within our power are our body, our property, our reputation, our office, and, in a word, whatever is not of our own doing. Let's break that down. What he's describing is the most fundamental sorting mechanism for your peace of mind. On one side of the dichotomy, you have everything that is truly up to you: your judgments, your values, your intentions, and your actions. This is your internal world, your character and your choices. On the other side is everything else: the actions of other people, the past, the future, the weather, traffic, the economy, and whether or not you get that promotion. These are externals. The immediate and immense power of this filter is that it forces you to pause and ask one critical question the moment you feel an emotional trigger: is this within my control? Consider a common frustration: being stuck in terrible traffic. You're running late, your stress levels are rising, and you can feel the irritation building. Now apply the filter: is the traffic itself within your control? Can you magically clear the cars ahead of you? Absolutely not. That is an external event. But what is within your control? Your response is entirely yours to command. You can choose to white-knuckle the steering wheel, fume with anger, and let it ruin your morning. Or you can accept the reality of the situation, use the time to listen to an audiobook or podcast, and decide to calmly notify the person you're meeting that you'll be a few minutes late. The event is neutral. It is your judgment about the event, your choice to label it as a catastrophe or merely an inconvenience that dictates your emotional state. This filter isn't about becoming passive or indifferent. It's about directing your energy with precision. Worrying about things outside your control is like trying to change the direction of the wind. It's an exhausting and utterly futile effort. But adjusting your own sails, that is where your true power lies. You stop wasting mental and emotional energy on externals and reinvest Chinese letter into the one thing you can always govern, yourself. So, as we move forward, take a moment to reflect. What is one thing you frequently worry about or get upset over that, upon honest examination, falls completely outside your control? Just identifying it is the first step toward disarming its power over you. Events themselves are neutral. It is our interpretation that causes suffering. This is the core of our second thought filter, objective representation, a practice the Stoics called phantasiae catalepticae, the discipline of perceiving impressions accurately, just as they are before our judgments color them. Imagine your mind as a clear, still pond. An event happens, a stone is dropped into the water. The stone itself is neutral. It is the ripples you create, the judgments you add, that disturb the calm surface and muddy the water. Our goal is to see the stone for what it is, without immediately stirring the waters with our own emotional reactions. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, constantly practiced this mental discipline. He advised himself to strip away the stories we tell ourselves about events, to see the bare facts without the added narrative. In his meditations, he writes, "Take away your opinion, and then there is taken away the complaint, I have been harmed. Take away the complaint, I have been harmed, and the harm is taken away." This is a profound mental shift. The event doesn't change, but your relationship to it is completely transformed. You move from being a victim of circumstance to being an objective observer, and in that space you find your power to choose a response. Let's make this practical with a common emotional trigger, receiving criticism, especially at work. Your boss says, "This report isn't up to your usual standard." The raw, objective event is simply this: a person you work with uttered that specific sequence of words. That's it. That is the neutral stone dropped into the pond. Now watch what typically happens next. The mind instantly adds layers of judgment and story. It says, "He thinks I'm incompetent. He's always been out to get me. This is a personal attack. My job might be in danger. I'm a failure." This narrative is what creates the surge of defensiveness, shame, or anger. You are no longer reacting to the event. You are reacting to the story you've wrapped around it. Now apply the filter of objective representation. Pause, strip the event back to its bare, objective facts. Describe it as if you were a video camera recording the scene, devoid of emotional labels. "My supervisor stated that the report did not meet the expected quality level. That's the stone, nothing more." From this calm, clear perspective, you can now engage your rational mind. You can ask useful questions instead of reacting with raw emotion. Is there truth to this feedback? What specific part of the report can be improved? Is this an opportunity to learn and deliver a better result next time? By removing the judgment, you disarm the emotional trigger and convert a potential conflict into a moment for professional growth. This practice is incredibly freeing. It allows you to navigate the world without being constantly blindsided by your own interpretations. The rude driver isn't a jerk. He's a person who changed lanes abruptly. The rainy day isn't horrible. It's a day with a higher than average chance of precipitation. This isn't about becoming emotionally cold or robotic. It's about granting yourself the clarity to experience emotions by choice, not by default. You choose when to invest emotional energy rather than having it stolen from you by an automatic judgment. So, I want you to try this right now. Bring to mind a recent minor event that irritated you or caused a flicker of anxiety. Maybe a friend was late to meet you, or you received a slightly terse email. Now practice describing that event using only objective, neutral language. Strip out all the value judgments, the assumptions, and the emotional labels. Just state the facts. Feel how the emotional charge around the event begins to dissipate when you view it through this clear, calm lens. This simple act of reperception is how you build the mental muscle of strategic calm. What if, instead of dreading potential obstacles, you could face them with a sense of calm readiness? This brings us to our third thought filter, a powerful Stoic exercise known as Premeditatio malorum, which translates to the premeditation of evils. It is not about pessimism or expecting the worst to happen. It is about the deliberate practice of mentally rehearsing challenges to strip them of their emotional power and to fortify your own resilience. The Stoic philosopher Seneca was a master of this practice. He advised, "We should project our thoughts ahead of us at every turn and have in mind every possible eventuality instead of only the usual course of events." He wasn't encouraging worry. He was advocating for a strategic form of mental vaccination, where a small, controlled dose of a challenge builds your immunity to the anxiety it typically causes. Think of it this way: fear and anxiety are often born from the unknown, from the terrifying narratives our minds create about events that haven't even occurred. Premeditatio malorum shines a light into those dark corners. By visualizing potential setbacks in vivid, concrete detail, you accomplish two crucial things. First, you familiarize yourself with the scenario, making it less foreign and therefore less frightening. The monster under the bed loses its power once you turn on the light and see it's just a shadow. Second, and more importantly, you give yourself the incredible gift of a prepared response. You are no longer reacting in the heat of the moment. You are executing a plan you've already thoughtfully considered. Seneca beautifully captured the strength this practice provides, writing, "He who has anticipated the coming of troubles takes away their power when they arrive." Imagine you have a crucial and potentially difficult conversation coming up with a family member. Perhaps you need to discuss a sensitive topic, and you're already feeling anxious about their reaction, fearing it might lead to an argument. Instead of letting that anxiety loop in your head, you sit down and actively engage in premeditatio malorum. You close your eyes and visualize the scene. You picture them responding with defensiveness or anger. You feel the initial urge to become defensive in return, to raise your voice to win the point. But then, because you are rehearsing, you pause. You visualize yourself taking a deep breath. You see yourself acknowledging their feelings without agreeing with their accusations. You hear yourself calmly restating your point with clarity and compassion, focusing on the issue rather than the personal attack. You mentally walk through staying composed, even if the other person does not. By doing this, you have not guaranteed a specific outcome, but you have guaranteed something far more valuable: your own preparedness. When you walk into that real conversation, the emotional charge has been significantly reduced. You've already faced the possibility of their negative reaction in your mind, and you've already practiced your ideal response. The event is no longer an unknown terror. It is a situation for which you have a strategy. This practice can be applied to virtually any area of life where uncertainty creates anxiety: a major presentation at work, a job interview, travel plans, or even personal goals. It transforms fear of the future into a practical exercise in problem solving. Take a moment right now to bring to mind a challenge you're anticipating in the near future, something that carries a slight sense of dread or nervousness. Now, rather than pushing that thought away, gently pull it closer. Mentally walk through the worst-case scenario, not to catastrophize but to strategize. See yourself encountering that obstacle with calmness and resourcefulness. How would your Stoic ideal self respond? What would they do? By rehearsing this composure, you are not inviting trouble. You are building an inner citadel of calm that will stand firm no matter what the future actually brings. Next time someone irritates you, remember, they are acting according to their nature. This is not an excuse for poor behavior, but a profound and practical truth that lies at the heart of our fourth thought filter, Sympathaya. This beautiful Stoic concept translates to a deep sense of interconnectedness and mutual belonging. It's the understanding that we are all part of a single, shared human experience, all doing our best with the knowledge, experiences, and broken pieces we carry. When we view others through this lens, our instinctive irritation begins to dissolve, making space for understanding and patience. Marcus Aurelius, who spent a lifetime dealing with the frustrating actions of those around him, constantly reminded himself of this principle. He wrote, "When people injure you, ask yourself what good or harm they thought would come of it. If you understand that, you'll feel sympathy rather than outrage or anger." You see, it's the person's belief that's flawed, not you. For once you see that, you'll find it easier to tolerate. He's pointing us toward a radical shift in perspective. The person who cuts you off in traffic, the colleague who makes a snide remark, the relative who offers unsolicited advice, they are not acting from a place of pure malice aimed at you. They are acting from their own flawed judgment, their own fears, their own limited understanding of the world in that moment. Their action is a symptom of their internal state, not a verdict on your worth. Let's apply this directly to that classic moment of road rage. You're driving along, and another car swerves into your lane without signaling, forcing you to hit the brakes. The immediate, raw reaction is to take it personally. How dare they? What a selfish, terrible driver. They did that to me. This interpretation fuels anger. Now apply the filter of Sympathaya. Instead of assuming malice, assume humanity. That driver isn't a villain, they are a person. Perhaps they are rushing to a sick child's school. Maybe they just received devastating news and are distracted by tears. They could simply be a new driver, overwhelmed and making a mistake. You don't know their story. By choosing the more generous interpretation, you aren't excusing the dangerous action, but you are protecting your own peace. Your heart rate stays steady. Your mood remains calm. You might even feel a flicker of concern for them. The event is the same, but your emotional experience of it is utterly transformed. This practice moves us from a state of constant judgment to a state of gentle curiosity. It asks us to replace the question, "How could they do this to me?" with what might have led them to act this way. This isn't about being a pushover or allowing genuine harm. It's about exercising your power to control your inner world. Your anger hurts you far more than it hurts the other person. Sympathaya offers you the key to release that self-inflicted suffering. I want you to try this reflective exercise right now. Bring to mind a recent interaction where someone's words or actions genuinely upset you. It doesn't have to be a major event. Maybe a store clerk was short with you, or a friend forgot to call. Now actively reframe that interaction with empathy. Mentally step into their shoes. What kind of day might they have been having? What unseen pressures or private battles could they be facing? What false belief or limited perspective might have driven their behavior? See if you can view them not as an antagonist in your story, but as the lead character in their own complicated narrative. Notice how this shift in perspective softens the edges of your frustration and replaces it with a more strategic and far more peaceful sense of calm. What if you learn to love even your struggles, not just to tolerate them or endure them with gritted teeth, but to genuinely embrace them as if you had chosen them yourself? This is the essence of our fifth thought filter, a radical and life-altering concept known as Amafati, a Latin phrase that translates to a love of one's fate. While the Stoics laid the groundwork for this idea, it was the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche who later gave it its powerful name and championed it as his personal formula for human greatness. He famously wrote, "My formula for greatness in a human being is Amafati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity. Not merely bear what is necessary, still less conceal it, but love it." This is the ultimate evolution of acceptance. It moves far beyond merely resigning yourself to events. It asks you to welcome them, to find the value hidden within them, and to see them as essential ingredients in the person you are becoming. The Stoics themselves were deeply aligned with this mindset long before it had a name. Epictetus, born a slave, understood that our peace comes from aligning our will with the unfolding of events, not in fighting against them. He taught his students, do not seek for things to happen the way you want them to. Rather, wish that what happens happen the way it happens, then you will be happy. Marcus Aurelius, facing endless wars and political intrigue, constantly reminded himself to accept cheerfully what is necessary. He wrote in his private journal, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." This is the transformative power of Amafati. It is the mental alchemy that turns every obstacle, every setback, and every piece of misfortune into fuel for your inner fire. The event itself doesn't change, but your relationship to it is completely revolutionized. Resistance is replaced with curiosity, resentment with gratitude, and victimhood with agency. Let's make this tangible with a scenario so many fear, an unexpected job loss. The initial reaction is often one of sheer panic, self-doubt, and fear for the future. The story we tell ourselves is one of failure and disaster, but now apply the filter of Amafati. This did not happen to you, it happened for you. This is not a punishment, but a redirection. What might be the hidden benefit? Perhaps that job was comfortable but was secretly stunting your growth, and this forced change is the necessary push you needed to finally pursue a career you're truly passionate about. Maybe it frees up time to reconnect with your family or to develop a new skill that will make you far more valuable in the long run. The period of struggle that follows isn't a barren wasteland. It's a training ground for resilience, creativity, and courage. By choosing to love this fate, you stop fighting the reality of the situation and start harnessing its energy. You begin networking with purpose, exploring paths you never considered, and building a new identity that is more resilient and adaptable than the old one ever was. This practice asks you to find the gift in the wound. It challenges you to trust the process of your own life, even when the path is shrouded in fog. So I want to offer you a reflective prompt, a small but potent exercise to begin cultivating this mindset. Bring to mind one current difficulty in your life. It could be a strained relationship, a financial worry, a health concern, or a professional setback. Now, I want you to consciously and deliberately search for just one positive aspect within it. Just one. Perhaps that difficult person is teaching you unprecedented levels of patience. Maybe the financial pressure is forcing you to discover a newfound creativity and frugality. That health challenge might be slowing you down enough to finally appreciate the simple, precious moments you used to rush past. Finding that single silver thread isn't about pretending the cloud isn't dark. It's about training your eyes to see the light that always exists somewhere within it. This is how you begin to love your fate, not all at once, but one grateful, conscious thought at a time. Now, let's elevate our perspective, quite literally, to a vantage point that can instantly dissolve anxiety and put every problem in its rightful place. This is our sixth filter, a powerful visualization exercise the Stoics called the view from above. It is the mental practice of zooming out from your immediate circumstances to see your life from a vast, cosmic perspective. Imagine for a moment pulling the camera of your mind back further and further until you're looking down at your city from the edge of space. You see the intricate patterns of lights, the tiny cars moving like ants, the vast stretches of land and sea. From this immense height, your individual worries, your urgent deadlines, that heated argument you had this morning, how significant do they truly appear? They are rendered beautifully, peacefully small. The Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius was a devoted practitioner of this technique. In the midst of leading armies and managing an empire, he would regularly retreat into his own mind to gain this higher perspective. He wrote in his private journal, "You can rid yourself of many useless things among those that disturb you, for they lie entirely in your imagination. How many the universe has already buried and will continue to bury." He was reminding himself that his current troubles were a single, fleeting note in the grand symphony of time and space. This practice wasn't about dismissing his responsibilities, but about approaching them with the right proportion of seriousness. It allowed him to engage with the world without being crushed by its weight. The power of this filter lies in its ability to recalibrate our sense of scale. We have a natural tendency to magnify our problems, to let them fill our entire field of vision until they feel all-consuming. The view from above is the perfect antidote to this myopia. It shrinks our anxieties down to their actual size, not by minimizing our experience, but by expanding the context around it. That stressful work deadline that has you working late and losing sleep, from a cosmic perspective, it is a single, momentary event. It will pass, the project will be completed, and whether it is a roaring success or a quiet failure, it will eventually be forgotten, buried under the relentless march of new days and new concerns. This isn't a call to apathy, it's an invitation to profound peace. You can still care deeply and work diligently, but you do so from a place of calm understanding, free from the suffocating grip of panic. Let's make this practical. The next time you feel that familiar surge of overwhelm, maybe you've just received a dozen urgent emails while trying to finish a report, and your heart starts to race. Pause for just 30 seconds. Close your eyes if you can, begin the visualization, see yourself from above, sitting at your desk. Pull the perspective back further, through the ceiling, above your building, seeing the entire block from a bird's eye view. Keep going, see your town or city as a map beneath you. Then see your country, your continent, the beautiful blue marble of our planet hanging in the immense black silence of space. From here, can you even see your desk, that inbox, that looming deadline? They are invisible, swallowed by the awe-inspiring scale of existence. Now, gently bring your awareness back to your body, carrying that expanded perspective with you. The work is still there, but your relationship to it has changed. It feels manageable now because you've remembered its true place in the grand scheme of your life. I want to offer you a simple prompt to integrate this powerful filter into your own life. Sometime today, when you encounter a moment of frustration or stress, whether it's a long line at the grocery store or a difficult conversation, I want you to try this. Take one deep breath and ask yourself one question. In 1 year or even in 1 month, how much will this specific moment truly matter? Will it be a story you tell, a lesson you learned, or will it have faded into insignificance? By regularly asking this question, you train your mind to default to this wider, calmer viewpoint, making strategic calm your natural state of being. What if you woke up tomorrow and the one thing you take for granted most was simply gone, not as a punishment but as a stark reminder of its true value? This is the heart of our seventh filter, a profound Stoic exercise known as negative visualization, or premeditatio malorum, applied to the blessings we already possess. While it shares a name with the practice of anticipating future obstacles, its focus here is beautifully different. It is not about fearing loss, but about systematically and intentionally cultivating a deep, vibrant appreciation for the present by mentally subtracting the good things in our lives. It is the art of savoring what you have by fully confronting the reality that it is temporary. The Stoic philosopher Seneca captured the immense power of this practice perfectly when he advised, "We should love all of our dear ones, but always with the thought that we have no promise that we may keep them forever, nay, no promise even that we may keep them for long." He isn't encouraging a morbid pessimism or a life lived in fear. He is offering us the key to unlock a more intense and joyful experience of life right now. By consciously remembering that our health, our relationships, and our comforts are not permanent entitlements but temporary gifts, we stop taking them for granted. We begin to see them with fresh eyes, as if we've just regained them after a long absence. This mental subtraction doesn't create sadness. It generates a powerful current of gratitude that can override even the most stubborn feelings of lack or dissatisfaction. Let's make this intensely practical. Take a moment to reflect on something you rely on every single day, perhaps without even a second thought. Your health, for instance. You wake up, your body moves, your eyes see, your mind works. It's just the baseline. Now, engage in negative visualization. Close your eyes and vividly imagine what it would be like to lose it. Picture waking up with a severe illness that confines you to bed, where the simple act of walking to the kitchen feels like a monumental achievement. Sit with that feeling for just a few seconds, the longing for the health you currently possess. Now, open your eyes, feel that wave of relief. Notice how your ordinary, functioning body suddenly feels like an incredible privilege. That familiar sense of well-being is now charged with a new and profound appreciation. You haven't lost anything, you've gained a deeper awareness of what you already have. This practice can be applied to any aspect of your life. That partner or friend you sometimes take for granted because they're always there. Imagine your life without their voice, their laughter, their presence. Suddenly, their minor quirks become endearing, and your gratitude for them swells. The roof over your head, the comfort of your bed, the simple safety of your neighborhood. Mentally remove them one by one and see how their value magnifies instantly when viewed through the lens of potential loss. The goal is not to dwell in a state of imagined deprivation, but to periodically use that imagination as a tool to return to your real life with a heart full of thanks. So here is a reflective prompt to truly integrate this filter. I want you to choose one blessing in your life right now, something or someone you deeply appreciate but have perhaps become accustomed to. It could be your sight, your hearing, your home, or a specific person. Now, for just 60 seconds, give yourself the gift of mentally subtracting it. Imagine it is gone. What would you miss most? What would you give to have it back? Then, release that thought and come back to the present moment. Feel the genuine, overwhelming gratitude that rushes in to fill the space where that brief fear resided. That feeling, that intense appreciation, is the superpower of negative visualization. It transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary, not by changing your circumstances, but by revolutionizing your perception of them. Not every thought that enters your mind deserves your belief. In fact, most of them are little more than mental static, automatic reactions flung at you by a world of constant stimulus. The real power, the heart of true self-mastery, lies not in stopping these initial impressions, but in what you choose to do with them the moment they arrive. This brings us to our eighth and profoundly transformative filter, the discipline of assent. This is the crucial Stoic practice of consciously pausing between receiving an impression and granting it your belief, creating a sacred space for reason to intervene before a rash judgment can hijack your emotional state. The great Stoic teacher Epictetus, who dedicated his life to mapping the path to inner freedom, placed this discipline at the very core of his teachings. He famously described the human mind as having three interconnected faculties: the one that receives impressions, the one that gives or withholds assent to those impressions, and the one that drives our impulses to act. He argued that the second faculty, our power of assent, is the ultimate seat of our freedom. It is the gatekeeper of our peace. He advised, "Don't let the force of an impression when it first hits you knock you off your feet. Just say to it, 'Hold on a moment, let me see who you are and what you represent.' Let me put you to the test." This simple act of pausing is the difference between being a passenger on a runaway train of thought and being the calm, deliberate conductor of your own mind. Let's break down how this works in a situation we all know too well. Imagine you're in a meeting and a colleague dismisses your idea with a slightly dismissive tone. The initial, raw impression floods your system. He thinks my idea is stupid. He doesn't respect me. He's trying to undermine me in front of everyone. This impression carries with it a powerful emotional charge, a hot flush of embarrassment, a cold spike of anger. Without the discipline of assent, you immediately believe this story to be true. You assent to it completely. Your body tenses. You might fire back a defensive comment, or you shut down entirely, stewing in resentment for the rest of the day. You have been captured by the impression. Now apply the filter. The impression arrives same as before, but instead of letting it through the gate unchallenged, you pause. You literally create a moment of mental silence. You turn to the impression and you ask Epictetus's questions. Hold on, who are you and what do you represent? You examine it. Is this impression an objective fact or is it my own interpretation? Is it possible my colleague is just having a bad day, is stressed about an upcoming deadline, or simply didn't fully understand my point? Could his tone have been unintentional? By withholding your immediate assent, you rob the impression of its power to define your reality. You create the space to choose a different, more strategic response. You might choose to calmly ask for clarification, to revisit the point later in private, or to simply let it go as inconsequential. The event was identical, but your inner experience and your outer reaction are now under your conscious control. This practice is a muscle that must be exercised. It starts with recognizing the most common and corrosive automatic thoughts we all have. Those instant negative judgments that feel true simply because they appeared. I want you to try a small but powerful exercise right now. Bring to mind one recurring automatic negative thought you sometimes have. Perhaps it's, "I'm not good enough for this promotion," or "My friend is annoyed with me," or "This situation is going to be a disaster." Now, for just one day, I want you to practice being the gatekeeper for that specific thought. Every time it arises, don't try to fight it or suppress it. Simply notice it, and before you allow yourself to believe it, gently ask, "Is this absolutely true? What is the evidence for and against this thought?" What is a more neutral or generous way to interpret this? You are not your thoughts. You are the wise judge who gets to decide which thoughts are worthy of your belief and which are merely noisy visitors passing through. Remembering that life is short can clarify your priorities instantly. This is the essence of our ninth filter, one of the most powerful and misunderstood practices in the entire Stoic toolkit, Memento Mori. The Latin phrase translates to "remember you must die." At first glance, this might sound morbid or pessimistic, a dark fixation on the end, but for the Stoics it was the exact opposite. It was a vital, invigorating technique designed to pull you out of the trance of daily pettiness and into a state of profound appreciation and purposeful action. It is the ultimate tool for distinguishing what is truly essential from what is merely noisy distraction. The Stoics didn't view death as a terrifying specter to be avoided, but as a wise and necessary advisor. Seneca, in his letters, returns to this theme again and again, urging his friend Lucilius to live with the end in mind. He writes with stunning clarity, "Let us prepare our minds as if we'd come to the very end of life. Let us postpone nothing. Let us balance life's books each day. The one who puts the finishing touches on their life each day is never short of time." This is the radical shift in perspective that Memento Mori offers. It's not about fearing that time is running out. It's about being liberated by the knowledge that your time is precious and finite, and therefore must not be wasted on the trivial. It forces you to live with intention because you are acutely aware that this day, this conversation, this moment is a non-renewable resource. Consider how this filter can rewire a common emotional trigger, getting caught in a petty argument or a spiral of resentment. You have a disagreement with a neighbor over something inconsequential, like a misplaced trash bin or a tree branch hanging over a property line. The conflict escalates in your mind. You draft angry emails in your head, you dwell on their perceived unfairness, and you feel your blood pressure rise every time you see their house. Now, apply the lens of Memento Mori. Ask yourself, is this conflict worth the limited and irreplaceable moments of my life? If I knew my time or theirs was truly short, would this dispute even register as important? From the vantage point of your mortality, the entire issue shrinks into absurd insignificance. The energy you were pouring into resentment is instantly freed up. You might even choose to extend an olive branch, not because you were wrong, but because you recognize that peace and human connection are infinitely more valuable than being right about a trivial matter. This practice cultivates a special kind of courage, the courage to be authentic, to have the difficult but important conversation you've been avoiding, to pursue the dream you've been postponing for someday. When you remember that someday is not guaranteed, today becomes urgently important. Marcus Aurelius reflected on this, writing to himself, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." He wasn't being dramatic, he was setting his internal compass. If this were your final hour, would you be scrolling through social media with a sense of lack, or would you be calling a loved one to tell them what they mean to you? Would you be worrying about a work project's minor flaw, or would you be sitting outside, fully present, feeling the sun on your skin? Memento Mori doesn't tell you to quit your job and abandon your responsibilities. It tells you to infuse your existing life with more meaning, presence, and love. To truly integrate this powerful filter, I want to offer you a simple but profound writing exercise. Take a piece of paper or open a note on your phone. I want you to write down your answer to this question. If I received a definitive diagnosis that I had only 6 months left to live, what 3 things would immediately become my absolute priorities? What would I stop doing immediately? Be brutally honest. The answers often have very little to do with professional achievements or material acquisitions. They almost always point toward connection, presence, and experiences, more time with family, expressing love freely, forgiving old grudges, watching the sunset, reading that book, visiting that place. This list is not a morbid fantasy. It is a mirror reflecting your deepest values. It shows you what you already know matters most. the incredible gift of Memento Mori is that you don't have to wait for a diagnosis to start living by that list. You can begin honoring those priorities today, right now, and transform the way you experience every single hour you are given. Where do you turn when the external chaos begins to swirl, when the noise of the world feels like it's closing in on you? This is the moment we build toward with our 10th filter, the ultimate sanctuary of the Stoic mind, the inner citadel. This powerful concept, most closely associated with the writings of Marcus Aurelius, is not about building physical walls or running away from your problems. It is the practice of constructing an unshakable fortress within your own mind, a place of perfect clarity and calm that you can retreat to at any moment, under any circumstances, simply by turning your attention inward. It is the headquarters of your reason, your values, and your true self, and it remains untouched by the storms of external events. Marcus Aurelius, a man who shouldered the immense burden of leading the Roman Empire through war, plague, and constant political intrigue, relied on this inner retreat as his most vital tool. He wrote in his private meditations, "People look for retreats for themselves in the country, by the coast, or in the hills. There is nowhere that a person can find a more peaceful and untroubled retreat than in his own mind, so constantly give yourself this retreat and renew yourself." He is pointing us toward a profound truth. While we cannot always control our environment, we have absolute sovereignty over our inner world. The inner citadel is that sovereign space. It is where you go to reclaim your perspective, to consult your core principles, and to remember that your peace is not dependent on what is happening to you, but on how you choose to engage with it from within. The beauty of this citadel is that its strength comes from reason and self-mastery, not from ignoring reality. In fact, it allows you to engage with the world more effectively because you are no longer reacting from a place of raw, unchecked emotion. You are responding from a place of centered strength. Marcus Aurelius beautifully captured this invincibility, writing, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Your inner citadel is where you guard the gate of your mind, ensuring that only thoughts aligned with your character and values are allowed to color your soul. He continues, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This is the foundational principle of the entire structure. Let's bring this to life with a scenario so many of us face, a high-stakes, emotionally charged meeting at work. Tensions are rising, voices are getting louder, and personal criticisms are starting to fly across the table. You feel the familiar heat of anger or the cold grip of anxiety beginning to take hold. This is the critical moment. Instead of getting swept up in the collective emotional current, you consciously decide to retreat into your inner citadel. It happens in an instant. You take a slow, deliberate breath, and in your mind's eye, you step back from the table. You observe the dynamics not as a participant who is under attack, but as a calm strategist assessing the situation from a place of safety. From this vantage point, you can ask yourself rational questions. What is the real issue here beneath the anger? What is my ultimate goal in this meeting? What is the most constructive way I can respond right now to move us toward that goal? By granting yourself this mental pause, you can choose to respond with a clarifying question rather than a defensive retort, or to acknowledge a valid point without conceding your entire position. You haven't checked out, you've checked in with your highest self. I want you to try building your own citadel right now. Close your eyes for just a moment if you can, or simply soften your gaze. Visualize a place within you that is completely calm, quiet, and safe. This is your mental fortress. What does it look like? Perhaps it's a serene library filled with the books of wisdom you most admire. Maybe it's a simple, quiet room with a single comfortable chair, or it could be a natural setting like a peaceful forest glade or a still mountain lake. Now, what are the core principles that form the unbreakable walls of this place? Maybe it's your commitment to integrity, your value of compassion, or your dedication to rational thought. What tools are stored inside to help you regain perspective? Perhaps a reminder of the view from above, or the dichotomy of control. This is your personal sanctuary, always available, always strong. The more vividly you can imagine it, and the more you practice visiting it, the more real and accessible it becomes whenever you need it most. What if you occasionally chose discomfort not as a punishment, but as a form of training for your mind? This is the powerful and counterintuitive practice behind our 11th filter, known as voluntary discomfort. The Stoics weren't masochists. They were pragmatic psychologists who understood a fundamental truth about human nature. Our deep-seated aversion to discomfort is often a greater source of suffering than the discomfort itself. By willingly and periodically stepping into mild hardship, we systematically desensitize ourselves to fear, build immense resilience, and rediscover a profound appreciation for the ordinary comforts we usually take for granted. The Stoic teacher Musonius Rufus was a powerful advocate for this practice, arguing that comfort and luxury make us soft and anxious, while voluntary hardship fortifies the spirit. He taught his students, how can a person become brave if he only enjoys comfort and does not endure hardship? How can he become just if he does not learn to be content with his fair share and to despise having more than he needs? His point was that courage and virtue aren't built in moments of ease. They are forged in the small, daily fires of chosen difficulty. Seneca echoed this sentiment, writing, "Set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?' This is the ultimate goal, to voluntarily face a small version of what you fear, so that when life inevitably forces a larger version upon you, you meet it not with panic, but with the calm confidence of someone who has been there before." The practice itself is elegantly simple. It's about intentionally creating a small, manageable break in your routine of comfort. This isn't about inflicting pain or deprivation. It's about creating a controlled experiment in resilience. One of the most accessible examples is taking a cold shower. That initial shock of cold water triggers every instinct to flee back to warmth and safety. But if you stay, if you breathe through the discomfort and observe the sensations without judgment, you accomplish something remarkable. You prove to yourself that you can tolerate unease. You demonstrate that your mind is in charge, not your body's reflexive demands for comfort. Another powerful practice is occasionally skipping a meal, not for dietary reasons but for mental training. To feel the pangs of hunger and simply observe them, understanding that they are temporary and that you are perfectly safe, builds a deep-seated confidence that you can handle scarcity. You might choose to walk instead of drive, to sleep on a firmer surface, or to spend a weekend without digital entertainment. The specific act matters less than the intention behind it. To willingly step into a minor hardship to remind yourself that you are stronger than your circumstances. I want to offer you a reflective prompt to bring this powerful filter into your own life. This week, I want you to consciously plan one small act of voluntary discomfort. It should be something safe but genuinely slightly outside your comfort zone. Perhaps it's that cold shower for 1 minute. Maybe it's leaving your phone at home during a walk. It could be choosing a simpler meal instead of an elaborate one. The key is to do it not with resentment, but with the mindset of an athlete training a muscle. As you experience the discomfort, pay attention to your internal dialogue. Notice the initial urge to quit, and then notice the quiet strength that emerges when you choose to stay. Afterwards, reflect on how it felt. Did the world end, or did you discover a new layer of resilience within yourself? This small, deliberate practice is how you build an inner reserve of toughness that life cannot easily shake. Fighting reality only increases suffering, while genuine acceptance brings a profound and immediate peace. This is the essence of our 12th filter, a subtle yet transformative practice the Stoics called the art of acquiescence. To acquiesce is not to surrender in defeat or to become passive in the face of life's challenges. It is an active, intelligent, and strategic alignment with the unfolding events of the universe. It is the wisdom of discerning when to exert your effort to change a situation and when to direct that same effort toward changing your perspective on a situation that cannot itself be changed. The Stoics saw this not as weakness, but as the ultimate expression of strength, the strength to flow with the current rather than exhaust yourself swimming relentlessly against it. The philosopher Epictetus, who understood the chains of slavery and the nature of true freedom better than most, placed this principle at the very center of his teachings. He offered a simple, powerful formula for tranquility. Do not seek for events to happen as you wish, but wish for events to happen as they do, and your life will go well. This single sentence contains a universe of wisdom. It asks us to perform a radical mental flip. Instead of our happiness being contingent on the external world conforming to our often fragile wishes, we instead train our will to wish for what is already true. We align our desires with reality itself. This doesn't mean you have to like every event that occurs, but it does mean you stop arguing with the unchangeable facts of what has already occurred. You save your energy for your response, which is the one thing always within your power. Consider a modern scenario we all know too well. You've been looking forward to a weekend getaway for weeks. You've packed, you've planned the route, you can already feel the relaxation. Then, a massive storm system moves in, canceling all flights and turning your dream weekend into a washed-out impossibility. The default, unconscious reaction is resistance. You rage against the weather, you frantically refresh the airline's website hoping for a miracle. You complain to anyone who will listen about the injustice of it all. This resistance is a form of self-inflicted suffering, a secondary layer of misery you've chosen to add on top of the primary event of the cancelled trip. The event itself is neutral, your resistance is what creates the pain. Now apply the filter of acquiescence. The event has happened, the trip is cancelled. This is a fact. You pause and consciously choose to accept this reality without internal complaint. You might say to yourself, the weather is beyond my control. This is what is happening now. From this place of acceptance, your energy is instantly freed up and redirected toward creative adaptation. Instead of fuming, you can now ask a useful question. Given that this is the new reality, what is the best possible way to spend this weekend at home? Perhaps you transform it into a much-needed staycation, finally reading that book, having a movie marathon, or enjoying a long, slow breakfast with your family. By acquiescing to the reality of the storm, you didn't get a worse weekend. You got a different and perhaps even better one. You traded resistance and misery for peace and possibility. To truly integrate this practice, I want you to try a brief reflective exercise. Bring to mind a recent, relatively small event where you felt that familiar knot of resistance tightening in your chest. Maybe you were stuck in unexpected traffic, a project at work was suddenly cancelled, or a friend had to postpone your dinner plans. Now, reimagine that scenario through the lens of acquiescence. What if, in that very moment, you had taken a deep breath and sincerely said to yourself, "This is what is happening, I accept it." How would that simple shift have changed your emotional state? What creative alternative might have emerged if you had redirected the energy spent on frustration into solving the new puzzle in front of you? This is the art not of giving up, but of wisely giving in to the flow of life, discovering that peace is always available on the other side of resistance. Can you observe your thoughts without getting swept away by them? This ability to step back and watch your own mind at work is the core of our 13th filter, a practice known as cognitive distancing. It is the mental skill of creating space between yourself and your thoughts, allowing you to see them for what they truly are: transient events in the mind, rather than absolute truths that demand your immediate belief and emotional investment. While this concept is central to modern mindfulness, its roots run deep into Stoic soil, representing a practical application of their core principle of detachment from initial, often misleading, impressions. The great Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius provided a beautifully clear instruction for this practice in his Meditations. He advised himself, objective judgment now at this very moment. Unselfish action now at this very moment, willing acceptance now at this very moment of all external events. That's all you need. But then he adds this crucial line: you are not your thoughts. This simple, profound statement is the foundation of cognitive distancing. He is reminding us that we possess a conscious self, an inner observer, that can stand apart from the chaotic stream of mental chatter. Your thoughts are something you have, not something you are. This subtle shift in perspective is incredibly liberating. It means a thought of fear does not make you a fearful person. It is merely a mental weather pattern passing through. A thought of insecurity is not a verdict on your worth. It is just a flicker of conditioning from your past. You are the sky, vast and unchanging, and your thoughts are merely the clouds. Let's make this tangible with a common experience. Imagine you're lying in bed trying to fall asleep, and a thought appears. What if I fail that presentation tomorrow? Without cognitive distancing, that thought instantly hooks you. It feels like a direct prediction of the future. Your body responds as if the failure is already happening. Your heart rate jumps, your stomach tightens, and your mind immediately starts building a detailed catastrophe story, playing out every embarrassing moment. You are now fully identified with the thought, lost in the storm. Now apply the filter. The same thought arises. What if I fail that presentation tomorrow? But this time you create distance. You consciously note, I am having the thought that I might fail. You might even silently label it worry or future tripping. By naming it and framing it as a mental event rather than a fact, you dramatically reduce its emotional power. It becomes a sentence on a page you can observe, rather than a command you must obey. The thought might still be there, but it no longer has you. You can choose to gently let it go and return your focus to your breath, recognizing it as just one of many possibilities, not a prophecy. To truly integrate this powerful filter into your daily life, I want to offer you a simple but profound practice for the next 24 hours. As you move through your day, I want you to occasionally pause and just notice your thoughts. You don't need to change them, judge them, or stop them. Simply become aware of them. When a thought arises, particularly a stressful or repetitive one, silently acknowledge it with a gentle, internal label. You might say to yourself, there is planning, or that is a memory, or this is criticism. The specific label isn't as important as the act of noticing itself. This practice of gentle observation is like training a muscle. Each time you do it, you strengthen your ability to be the calm, centered witness of your mind rather than its frantic prisoner. You begin to discover a profound peace that exists not in the absence of difficult thoughts, but in the growing space you learn to place between yourself and them. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. This brings us to our 14th filter, a deceptively simple yet profoundly transformative practice known as the Stoic Pause. This is the intentional act of inserting a moment of deliberate silence between an event and your reaction to it. It is in this brief hiatus that you reclaim your sovereignty from your reflexes, creating the necessary room for your rational mind to engage and for your character to choose a response that aligns with your values rather than one dictated by raw emotion. The Roman Stoic philosopher Seneca, a man who navigated the treacherous political waters of Nero's court, understood the immense danger of unchecked initial impulses. He wrote extensively on the importance of managing anger, which he saw as a temporary madness. His advice was to create delay, to interrupt the automatic cascade of reaction. He advised the greatest remedy for anger is delay. He wasn't suggesting we suppress our emotions indefinitely, but that we should command ourselves to pause, to allow the initial, white-hot surge of feeling to subside just enough for our better judgment to take the helm. This pause is the practical application of the discipline of assent we discussed earlier. It is the physical and mental breathing room where that assent is either granted or withheld. Consider how this plays out in a scenario we've all experienced: a heated argument with a partner or close friend. A comment is made that feels like a personal attack. The immediate limbic system reaction is to fire back with a cutting remark of your own, to defend yourself, to win the point. This reaction is lightning fast and feels utterly justified in the moment. But if you can remember to enact the Stoic pause, everything changes. Instead of speaking immediately, you take a deliberate physical step back. You consciously feel your feet on the floor. You take one deep, slow breath. You might even silently count to 3 or 10. In that sliver of time, you create a buffer zone between the provocation and your reply. From this new, slightly detached vantage point, you can ask yourself a different set of questions. Is my goal here to be right or to be connected? Is what I'm about to say true, necessary, and kind? What is the virtuous way to handle this misunderstanding? The response that eventually comes will be measured, thoughtful, and far more likely to de-escalate the conflict and lead to a genuine resolution. The beauty of this practice is that it is a tool you can begin using this very second. It requires no special knowledge, only a moment of conscious intention. To help you integrate this filter, I want you to bring to mind one specific emotional trigger in your own life. It might be the tone of voice your teenager uses that instantly raises your blood pressure. It could be the specific way a colleague phrases feedback that makes you feel defensive. It might be the sight of a crowded, chaotic traffic jam that triggers a wave of frustration. Now make a personal commitment. The very next time you encounter that specific trigger, your one and only job is to enact the Stoic pause. Before you say a word, before you make a face, before you send that email, you will stop. You will take one full breath. You will claim that space for yourself. You don't even need to know what you're going to do after the breath. The victory is in successfully creating the pause itself. This small, conscious act is the seed from which strategic calm grows. What if your ultimate goal in any situation wasn't to achieve a specific outcome, but simply to act with integrity and character in every single moment? This radical shift in focus is the heart of our 15th filter, a cornerstone of Stoic practice known as focusing on virtue. The ancient Stoics identified 4 cardinal virtues as the pillars of a good life: wisdom, the ability to navigate complex situations with sound judgment; courage, the strength to face difficulty and do what is right despite fear; justice, treating others with fairness, kindness, and respect; and temperance, exercising self-control and moderation in all things. They argued that true tranquility and unshakable calm are found not in securing favorable external results, which are always partly outside our control, but in the unwavering knowledge that we ourselves have acted virtuously, no matter what the outcome may be. The Stoic teacher Epictetus, who began his life in slavery, placed this idea at the absolute center of his philosophy. He taught that while we cannot control the world around us, we have complete command over our intentions and our efforts to be virtuous. He made a stark and powerful distinction, stating, "There is only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about things which are beyond the power of our will." He then defined that sole good within our will as virtue itself. He famously said, "Virtue is the sole good." This means that your character is the only thing in this entire universe that you can truly perfect, and therefore, it is the only thing that can be the source of your genuine and lasting self-worth. When you make virtuous action your primary aim, you free yourself from the emotional roller coaster of wins and losses, praise and blame. Your calm becomes internal, self-generated, and utterly resilient. Let's apply this directly to a high-pressure scenario, an important athletic competition or a crucial job interview. The default, unconscious focus is almost entirely on the outcome, winning the race, landing the job. Your emotional state becomes a hostage to that result. If you win, you feel elated. If you lose, you feel crushed, dejected, and perhaps even like a failure. Your sense of worth is tied to an external event. Now, apply the filter of focusing on virtue. Before you even step onto the track or into the interview room, you consciously redefine what success means for you in this endeavor. Success is no longer getting the job. Success becomes articulating my skills with honesty and clarity, listening to the interviewer with respect and attention, and representing my best self with courage and poise. Your entire focus shifts from the uncontrollable outcome to the entirely controllable process of acting with virtue. You compete with every ounce of your effort and respect for your opponents. You interview with integrity, answering questions truthfully. The result, if you get the job, it's a wonderful bonus to having already succeeded in your own eyes. If you don't, you can walk away with your head held high, knowing you lost nothing of true value. Your character remains intact and, in fact, has been strengthened by the practice. You experience a profound and strategic calm throughout the entire process because your self-esteem is no longer on the line. To truly integrate this powerful filter into your own life, I want you to try a simple but profound reflective exercise. Bring to mind a recent action or decision, something where you were hoping for a specific result. It could be a work project you presented, a difficult conversation you had, or even a personal goal you were pursuing. Now, I want you to evaluate that event not based on its outcome, but solely on the virtue you displayed in the process. Set aside whether you succeeded or failed in the conventional sense. Instead, ask yourself these questions. Did I act with wisdom, making the best decisions I could with the information I had? Did I act with courage, speaking my truth or facing a fear? Did I act with justice, treating everyone involved with fairness and respect? Did I act with temperance, exercising self-control and avoiding overindulgence in emotion or action? Your honest answers to these questions reveal your true success. This practice realigns your compass with your character, the one true source of a calm that no external event can ever take away from you. The Stoics knew writing clarifies the mind and tames emotions. It's one thing to think about your day, but it's an entirely different process to physically write it down. The act of putting pen to paper forces a clarity and honesty that fleeting thoughts simply cannot achieve. It externalizes the chaos of your internal world, allowing you to examine your thoughts and reactions from a place of calm detachment. This is why journaling was a non-negotiable daily practice for the most influential Stoics. It was their primary tool for self-examination, course correction, and the systematic cultivation of virtue. They understood that an unexamined life is reactive, while an examined life is responsive and wise. No one exemplifies the power of this practice better than Marcus Aurelius himself. The very book we now revere as Meditations was never intended for publication. It was his private journal, written mostly during exhausting military campaigns on the harsh frontiers of the Roman Empire. In those pages, we don't see an emperor giving commands to others. We see a man giving commands to himself. He is constantly rehearsing Stoic principles, admonishing himself for his own failings, and reminding himself of his core values. He wrote, "You have been formed of 3 parts: body, breath, and mind. Of these, the first 2 are yours insofar as you must take care for them, but the third alone is truly yours." His journal was the sacred space where he connected with that third part, his mind and his character, strengthening it against the immense pressures and distractions of his external world. It was his daily return to his inner citadel. So, what does a modern Stoic journaling practice look like? It's far more structured than simply writing down your feelings. It's a targeted, reflective audit of your day designed to reinforce learning and rewire your emotional triggers. A powerful and simple template to follow comes from another Stoic teacher, Seneca. He advised his friend Lucilius to end each day with a specific set of questions. You can ask yourself, what went well today? Where did I act in alignment with my virtues? Then, with equal importance, where did I fall short? What specific event triggered an emotional reaction that I wish I had handled with more wisdom or calm? The key is to approach this not with self-condemnation, but with the gentle curiosity of a scientist analyzing data. You are collecting information on your own patterns of thought and behavior so you can understand them better and, over time, improve them. For instance, imagine you lost your temper with a customer service representative on the phone. In your journal that evening, you wouldn't just write, "I got angry." You would break it down. You'd describe the objective event. The representative said the refund couldn't be processed for 7 more days. You'd identify the initial impression and the judgment you assented to. I immediately thought, this is unfair, they're incompetent, and I believed that story. Then you'd apply your Stoic filters in hindsight. This was outside my control. My reaction was within my control, and I chose poorly. A more virtuous response would have been to accept the policy calmly and ask if there was any way to expedite it. This process of post-mortem analysis is how you train your mind to perform better in real time tomorrow. I want to offer you a reflective prompt to make this tangible. For the next 7 days, I invite you to try this Stoic journaling practice. It doesn't need to take more than 10 minutes each night. Find a quiet moment, open a notebook or a digital document, and answer these 3 questions with gentle honesty. First, what is one thing that happened today where I managed my emotional response well, and what Stoic principle helped me? Second, what is one situation where I was triggered and reacted poorly, and how could I have applied a different thought filter? And third, based on this reflection, what is one intention I can set for myself tomorrow? The simple act of doing this consistently for 1 week will create a noticeable shift in your self-awareness and your capacity for strategic calm, turning daily reflection into lasting rewiring. How much peace would you gain if you truly cared less about what other people think of you, the car you drive, or the title on your business card? This is the provocative and liberating question at the heart of our 17th filter, a challenging but profoundly freeing Stoic practice known as cultivating contempt for external goods. Now, the word contempt here is crucial. It doesn't mean a sneering disgust or a belief that these things are evil. In the Stoic sense, it means a calm, reasoned understanding of their true, limited nature. It is the ability to see them clearly for what they are, and more importantly, for what they are not. They are not and can never be the source of your self-worth or your happiness. This filter is about systematically reducing your emotional dependency on things outside your control, thereby dismantling a massive source of anxiety, envy, and insecurity in your life. The Stoics had a precise and brilliant term for things like wealth, social status, reputation, and even our physical health. They called them preferred indifference. This is a term packed with meaning. Indifferent means that these things have no inherent power to make you a good or a bad person. Your character is determined solely by your choices and your virtues, not by your possessions or your popularity. Preferred simply acknowledges that it is perfectly natural and rational to prefer health over sickness, comfort over poverty, and praise over criticism. We are human, after all. The critical distinction is that while we may prefer them, we must not depend on them for our tranquility. We can enjoy them if they are present, but we must be equally content if they are absent, because our core well-being is rooted in something internal and unassailable. Seneca, a man who experienced immense wealth and power, and also faced exile and poverty, wrote extensively on the vanity of chasing external validation. He saw with stunning clarity how the pursuit of status is a never-ending, exhausting race. He offered this piercing insight: what you have matters less than what you are. The man who adapts himself to his slender means and makes himself wealthy on a little sum is truly rich. He's pointing to a radical redefinition of wealth. True riches are not found in your bank account, but in your state of mind, in your ability to be content and virtuous with whatever you have. In another powerful letter, he cuts to the heart of the issue with approval, writing, "I never wished to please the rabble. What they approve of is not what I have to offer, and what I have to offer is not what they would approve of. This isn't arrogance, it is the ultimate self-possession." It is the calm confidence of a person whose sense of value is internally generated, making them immune to the fickle opinions of the crowd. Let's make this intensely practical. One of the most powerful ways to exercise this muscle of indifference is to deliberately do something worthwhile without seeking any recognition for it. This is a direct workout for your soul. For instance, you might perform a small act of kindness completely anonymously, perhaps paying for the coffee of the person behind you in the drive-thru without them knowing, or leaving a generous tip for a server with a simple note of thanks, but without sticking around for the gratitude. The act itself is the reward. The practice is in sitting with the feeling of having done a good thing for its own sake, and consciously rejecting the inner voice that whispers, "I wish someone knew about this." Another practice could be to dress slightly below the expected norm for a social event, not to make a statement, but to quietly observe your own feelings of discomfort or vulnerability that arise from not meeting an external standard. You are not the clothes you wear. The goal is to repeatedly prove this truth to yourself through experience, weakening the link between your self-esteem and the external tokens you once believed were essential. To truly begin integrating this filter into the fabric of your thinking, I want to offer you a reflective and potentially transformative writing exercise. Take a moment of quiet honesty and ask yourself, what is one external good that I have come to overvalue? What is the thing I secretly fear losing because a part of me believes it defines my worth? Perhaps it is a certain level of income, the approval of a specific family member, your number of social media followers, or your professional reputation. Write it down. Now I want you to engage in a thought experiment. imagine that this external good is permanently taken away from you. Sit with that feeling for a moment. Then ask yourself these questions. Without this, would I still be a person of integrity? Could I still act with courage, wisdom, justice, and self-control? Would I still be capable of love, kindness, and contribution? The resounding answer is yes. This exercise isn't meant to create fear. It is designed to reveal the incredible, unshakable foundation you already possess beneath the temporary structures of status and possession. Your true value was never in those things to begin with. Where is your mind right now, rehashing the past or fearing the future? So often, our mental energy is spent in two places where we have absolutely no power: the unchangeable past and the uncertain future. This constant time travel is the primary engine of anxiety, and it pulls us out of the only place where our lives are actually being lived, the present moment. This brings us to our 18th and perhaps most immediately accessible filter, a practice of profound Stoic mindfulness that calls us to anchor our awareness firmly in the here and now, recognizing it as the only realm where we can truly act, choose, and experience life. The Stoics understood that a mind scattered across time is a mind that is never truly at peace. Marcus Aurelius, amidst the immense burdens of empire, constantly reminded himself to rein in his wandering thoughts and return to the immediate task before him. He offers one of the most clear and practical instructions for this in his Meditations, writing, "Don't let your imagination be crushed by life as a whole. Don't try to picture everything bad that could possibly happen. Stick with the situation at hand and ask, why is this so unbearable? Why can't I endure it? You'll be embarrassed to answer." Then he adds this crucial point: then remind yourself that past and future have no power over you, only the present, and even that can be minimized. This minimization is the key. He's not telling us to ignore our problems. He's instructing us to break them down from overwhelming, future-based catastrophes into a series of small, present-moment actions that we can, in fact, endure. This practice is the ultimate antidote to the overwhelm that so often paralyzes us. Consider a massive, looming project at work, perhaps a report that feels too complex or a presentation you're dreading. The anxiety doesn't come from the work itself in this moment. It comes from the terrifying story your mind is weaving about the future work, the potential for failure, and the sheer volume of what needs to be done. Your mind has left the present and is lost in a frightening fantasy of what might be. The Stoic response is to gently but firmly guide it back. You consciously minimize the problem to its smallest possible component. You don't need to write the entire report, you only need to write the next sentence. You don't need to master the entire presentation, you only need to review the next slide. By fully immersing yourself in that single, manageable present moment task, you bypass the anxiety engine entirely. You discover that the action itself is almost always bearable. It is the imagined suffering around the action that is unbearable. This filter transforms ordinary life into a practice in focused engagement. When you're washing the dishes, just wash the dishes. Feel the warmth of the water, notice the texture of the bubbles, hear the sound of the clinking plates. When you're walking the dog, just walk the dog. Feel the leash in your hand, notice the rhythm of your breath, observe the world around you without judgment. Each time your mind drifts into a past regret or a future worry, which it will constantly, you simply notice the drift without criticism and guide your attention back to the anchor of your senses and your current activity. This is not a failure, it is the rep, the exercise that strengthens your mindfulness muscle. Each return to the present is a victory for your peace of mind. To truly begin weaving this filter into the fabric of your day, I want to offer you a simple but potent exercise in presence. Sometime in the next few hours, I want you to set a timer for just 5 minutes. For those 5 minutes, choose one ordinary activity, making a cup of tea, looking out the window, or even just sitting and breathing. Your only job for those 300 seconds is to be fully, completely present with that activity. When your mind inevitably wanders off to a meeting later today or a conversation from yesterday, gently acknowledge the thought, "There's planning," or "That's a memory," and without any frustration, guide your attention back to the feeling of the warm mug in your hands, the play of light on the leaves outside, or the sensation of air filling your lungs. This isn't about achieving a blank mind, it's about practicing the gentle art of return. In doing so, you reclaim your most precious resource, your attention, and place it squarely in the only moment you ever truly have. What if you had a personal advisor of unshakable wisdom available to you at any moment, a guiding presence you could consult before making any decision or facing any emotional trigger? This is the powerful and practical concept behind our 19th filter, a technique the Stoics called modeling the sage. It is the practice of consciously pausing to ask yourself a single, transformative question in the heat of the moment. What would a perfectly wise and virtuous person do in this exact situation? You are not just asking for advice, you are actively stepping into the shoes of your own highest ideal, creating a moment of space between impulse and action where your best self can take the lead. The Stoics themselves constantly used this mental model. They referred to this idealized figure as the sage, a person who lived in perfect accordance with nature and reason, embodying the 4 cardinal virtues of wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance in every action. While they acknowledged that such perfection might be a lifelong goal rather than an attainable destination, they understood the immense power of having this North Star to guide them. Seneca, in his letters, frequently encouraged his friend Lucilius to keep a virtuous person in mind as a guardian and a standard. He advised, "Choose therefore a Cotto, or if Cotto seems too severe a model, choose some Laelius, a man less strict and more easygoing. Choose a master whose way of life as well as words, and whose very face as mirroring the character that lies behind it, have won your approval. Be always pointing him out to yourself either as your guardian or as your model." This wasn't about unrealistic hero worship. It was about having a concrete, mental exemplar to emulate when your own judgment felt clouded by passion or confusion. Let's bring this filter to life with a modern scenario. Imagine you're in a team meeting and a colleague publicly takes credit for your idea. The raw, initial impression is one of betrayal and anger. Your body tenses, your heart rate spikes, and the words of a sharp, defensive retort are already forming on your tongue. This is the critical juncture. Instead of immediately assenting to that angry impression, you enact a pause and activate the filter. You silently ask yourself, what would my model of wisdom do here? Perhaps your chosen model is Nelson Mandela, known for his profound grace and strategic patience in the face of far greater injustice. How would he handle this? He wouldn't lash out in the meeting, creating a public scene that would damage team cohesion and his own standing. He would likely remain calm, gather his evidence, and address the matter privately and firmly later, focusing on restoring justice without sacrificing dignity. By consulting this inner sage, you bypass the petty, reactive you and access a more strategic, virtuous response. The event doesn't change, but your reaction is now guided by principle rather than impulse. Your chosen model doesn't have to be a historical titan. It can be a wise grandparent, a respected mentor, or even a composite ideal you've built from many people. The key is that this figure embodies the qualities you wish to cultivate in yourself. The practice is in making this consultation a reflexive habit. Before sending that frustrated email, ask what your sage would write. When facing a difficult ethical choice, ask what path would align with their character. When feeling lazy or undisciplined, ask how they would spend this hour. You are essentially creating a constant internal dialogue with your own potential, continually calling yourself upward to a higher standard of behavior. To truly integrate this powerful filter, I want you to try a specific reflective exercise. First, take a moment to choose your sage. Who is one person, real or historical, who represents the kind of calm, virtue, and wisdom you aspire to? It could be Marcus Aurelius for his thoughtful leadership, Epictetus for his resilience, or perhaps a modern figure like Fred Rogers for his boundless empathy and patience. Now bring to mind one current, minor challenge you're facing, perhaps a recurring frustration with a family member or a procrastinated task at work. Now, vividly imagine your chosen sage is facing this exact same situation. Walk through it in your mind from their perspective. How would they think about it? What would be their first action? What words would they use? What would their emotional state be? By mentally rehearsing their response, you are not copying them. You are downloading a blueprint for virtuous action that you can then adapt and make your own, slowly rewiring your own triggers into strategic calm. Gratitude isn't just a warm feeling or a simple act of positive thinking. Within the Stoic framework, it functions as a powerful piece of mental armor, a deliberate practice that actively shields you from negativity and fortifies your emotional resilience. This final filter brings our journey full circle, transforming your focus from what you lack or fear to the abundant good that is already present in your life, much of which you likely overlook in the daily grind. The Stoics understood that a mind fixated on what it doesn't have is a mind in a state of perpetual desire and anxiety. By consciously redirecting our attention to what we do have, we perform a profound act of cognitive jujitsu, using the weight of our own awareness to flip our entire perspective from one of lack to one of abundance. This isn't about ignoring life's difficulties. It's about building a foundational layer of contentment that those difficulties cannot so easily penetrate. Seneca, in his profound letters on the nature of a good life, cut directly to the heart of this practice. He advised, "Let us give thanks that we have lived. We have received much, more has been given to us than we could have rightly hoped for." This quote is a masterclass in perspective. He isn't saying that life is without hardship. He is instructing us to consciously and consistently tally our blessings, to actively acknowledge the countless things from the profound to the mundane that we typically take for granted. This act of giving thanks is a direct counterweight to our brain's natural negativity bias, which constantly scans for threats and problems. By regularly exercising our gratitude muscle, we strengthen the neural pathways that recognize safety, provision, and connection, making it harder for petty annoyances and larger setbacks to dominate our emotional landscape. The practical application of this filter is beautifully simple, yet its effects are anything but. The practice of keeping a gratitude journal, of starting or ending each day by physically writing down 3 specific things you are grateful for, is a cornerstone of this work. But this goes far beyond a simple list. The power lies in the specificity and the depth of your reflection. It's not enough to write, "My family." You would write, "I am grateful for the sound of my daughter's laughter this morning when I spilled the orange juice, and how it turned a moment of frustration into a shared joke." You move from the general to the specific, from the abstract to the deeply felt. This practice forces you to slow down and truly savor the good that is already woven into the fabric of your existence, the warmth of the sun on your skin, the reliable comfort of a roof over your head, the taste of clean water, the presence of a friend who listens. When you make this a daily ritual, you are essentially conducting a nightly audit of your life's assets, and you will quickly find that your balance sheet is far richer than you previously believed. To truly integrate this final and vital filter into your own life, I want to offer you a clear and actionable challenge. For the next 7 days, I invite you to make this gratitude practice non-negotiable. Each evening, just before you sleep, take out a notebook or a note on your phone and write down 3 distinct things from that day for which you are genuinely grateful. They do not need to be monumental. In fact, some of the most powerful entries will be for the smallest, most ordinary moments you normally would have missed entirely. As you write each one, pause for just a few seconds to truly feel the appreciation for it in your body. Notice any shifts in your mood or your overall outlook as the week progresses. Do you find yourself starting to look for these moments throughout your day? Does the frustration of a traffic jam feel less significant when you know you will later be writing about the beautiful sunset you saw through your windshield? This week-long experiment is how you forge gratitude from a passing feeling into an unbreakable shield, one that will protect your peace and allow you to meet whatever comes next from a place of grounded strength and calm appreciation. And so we arrive at the heart of the matter, armed with 20 distinct mental lenses to transform the raw energy of an emotional trigger into the steady power of strategic calm. From the foundational sorting of the dichotomy of control to the cosmic perspective of the view from above, from the courageous acceptance of Amafati to the daily discipline of the Stoic Pause, each filter offers a unique pathway back to your center. These are not abstract philosophies to be admired from a distance. They are practical, accessible tools for the chaos of modern life, each one a key to unlocking a more resilient and deliberate way of being. They are all united by a few timeless themes: the profound peace that comes from focusing only on what is within your power, the liberation found in shifting your perspective, the strength that flows from accepting reality rather than fighting it, and the unshakable foundation of building a life centered on virtue rather than external validation. This entire journey, this toolkit for the soul, is beautifully encapsulated in the closing words of Marcus Aurelius, who reminds us that true tranquility is never found in the external world, but is always an inside job. He wrote, "Look within, within is the fountain of good, and it will ever bubble up if thou wilt ever dig. Your peace, your calm, your strength, it has been within you all along." These 20 filters are your shovels. They are the means to clear away the debris of reactive emotion and tap into that constant, renewing spring of wisdom that resides in your own rational mind. The real work begins not in understanding these concepts, but in applying them. The most profound transformation occurs in the space between knowledge and action. So here is my challenge to you. Do not feel you must master all 20 filters at once. That path leads only to overwhelm. Instead, choose just one. Scan back through this video and select the single filter that resonated most deeply with you, the one that you instinctively know would make the biggest difference in your life this very week. Perhaps it's the dichotomy of control to stop wasting energy on things you can't change. Maybe it's negative visualization to rekindle a fierce gratitude for the people and things you already have. It could be the simple, powerful practice of the Stoic Pause to create that crucial moment of choice before you react. Commit to practicing that one filter with intention for the next 7 days. Watch how it begins to rewire your automatic responses, and I would be truly honored if you would return here and share your experience in the comments below. Tell us which filter you chose and what you discovered. Your story could be the very thing that inspires someone else to begin their own journey toward a calmer, more purposeful life. If you found even one of these ideas helpful for navigating the complexities and stresses of your world, consider subscribing to this channel. Together, we continue to explore ancient Stoic wisdom and translate it into practical strategies for your modern life, helping you build a mind that is not easily shaken, a character of strength, and a life of profound and lasting calm. Thank you for